Here, better know me as Brian, of course, if you've been watching my videos. So, I think it was the other day, somebody I subscribed to, his channel is Bronco Juggalo. And he had a video as I was perusing YouTube, as I was surfing YouTube. I found one of his videos with the title of Top 10 Stand-Up Comics or something to that effect. So I watched it, and I found that interesting. And then he said he was asked to do it by another YouTuber. I think her channel is called. I subscribed to it today. It's Jen's Reviews by the Grave, I think. So she was the initial beginner of this tag. I wasn't tagged, but she said on her video that anybody could do it. So I'd like to do it because I love stand-up comedy, and there's certain comedians I really love to watch over and over again. So I do have a top 10, and I have a few honorable mentions. And I will say in my top 10 that like number 10 might be just as good as number 1, or number 2 might be just as good as number 7, or number 4 will be just as great as number 9. So, but I will say that maybe number 2 and number 1 are maybe the top. Maybe they are the cream of the crop, So, anyways, I've got, let's see, 4 honorable mentions. The first is Joan Rivers. Oh, and another thing I like to mention is maybe I'll insert clips of them doing stand-up as this video progresses. I'm worrying about copyright infringement, but I'm thinking if I just show like 20 seconds worth of their comedy, I can't be sued or struck down by YouTube. I think I can use more than one source, because as long as I use, like if I use a Jim Gaffigan clip, if it's like 20 seconds or less, that's fine. And then I use a George Carlin clip, and that's 20 seconds or less, that's fine too. If you just, as long as each single comedian's clip is like under 20 seconds or under 30 seconds, I should be fine, I think. But anyways, let me get back to the list. So the first one is Joan Rivers. These are honorable mentions. So I'm going to be talking for a little while. I'm going to put the video on hold, and I'll be right back because I got to get some water. So Joan Rivers had a movie that she made, a documentary. And I recall at one point in the movie when she's doing stand-up, and basically towards the end of her life, she wasn't scoring big. She had to take, what do you call that? A stand-up performance in an area that might be Nowheresville, Michigan, or something, or Anytown, Minnesota, or something like that, because, she wasn't. She was one of the hosts of the Tonight Show, but she wanted like Johnny Carson's blessing when she started her own late night show, and he didn't really reciprocate. I would say. But anyways, as I recall in the movie, Joan Rivers is making a joke about, I think, like autistic people or something, and somebody in the audience says their child is autistic, and after the stand-up portion well, after she does her stand up and gets off stage, uh, when she's on stage and the person mentions it as a heck, they're not really a heckler, but they're responding back. She, you know, speaks ironically back to that person in sort of cruel way, but actually it's the humor. It's not really. She doesn't really mean it in a cruel way, but she gets off the stage and she feels bad about what she said in the in her stand-up routine, but that's just part of the routine, you know. But she's very funny. Um, Norm Macdonald, who used to do, oh, I forgot one other person too, um, which I'll type right now, but I'll say right after Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald, um, he's always did that funny, what's that called? This is why I believe the Germans love David Hasselhoff. He did that thing. He talked about a wiener dog gripping his neck or something. He just had this very particular, unique kind of humor to him. And he did really funny impressions of David Letterman and who's the other guy he did? Oh, Quentin Tarantino. And if you haven't seen those, look those up on YouTube because they're hilarious. Um, Tina Fey is another one because I thought of Saturday Night Live. She's hilarious. Um, Maybe I don't. I guess I know in the context of Weekend Update where she did that with Amy Poehler and her playing what's her name, uh, the governor of Alaska. Um, what is her name? Well, I'll probably just print it here, or I'll stop it for a second, and then I'll come back. I'll have the name. I just use Siri on my computer to find out. It's oh, I just had it in front of me, and Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin. Her impression of her is just dead on. So let me get through some of the other honorable mentions. Kathleen Madigan. She's pretty funny. They have the show. I don't have cable anymore. I don't have regular network television. But when I did, I used to watch a show called Last Comic Standing. In the starting of it, the show, when it started off, you know, it's a talent show like America's Got Talent or American Idol. And the first round would be people signing up to do stand-up at various places around America. They would choose each person in each. They would choose the comedians that were the best or what they considered the best, I would say, because not everybody's going to agree, of course. But they chose the best comedians that what they thought were the best comedians, and then they slimmed them down a little bit more, and then they made. This is the dumb part. They made them live in a house together, which is just exploitive and just trying to milk the situation and just make it look like, you know, this put more scandal, the right word, just craziness in it that doesn't need to be in there, because all I really care about is hearing the humor, and then people would vote them off like during when the showdown started beginning, you know, with the choosing, narrowing down the contestants to one who would become number one. You could give a phone call. I think you could go online at the time as well. I don't know if it's still on the air. It was on NBC. But Kathleen Madigan was one of those people that was on it. And I know her from previous to Last Comic Standing, because I used to see her on Comic Strip Live on Fox, I believe it was. It was back in like the late 80s, early 90s. It was going up against Saturday Night Live. And I think the show that replaced Comic Strip Live was Mad comedy show on Fox, which is still going strong, I guess. But anyways, yeah. So Kathleen Madigan, and then there's and the last honorable mention is Janine Garofalo, who was a cast member on SNL. She did some liberal radio, but I found her funny. But anyways, let me get to these top 10 comedians. They're not really in any lower or higher order, except for maybe the last two. And I'm thinking of including a clip with each comedian that I showed on this top 10 list, or maybe at least a few of them. So the first one I'll mention, going back to Last Comic Standing, and he's a killer comedian, is Josh Blue. Josh Blue was born with cerebral palsy, so his limbs are, the way he moves, holds a microphone, walks around. His body is not contorted right. So, like, what's her name? She had the Trump scandal. She has red hair. She had the decapitated head of Trump, and she got in a lot of trouble for it. Kathy, whatever her name is, I'll put it down here. I can't remember her name, but she was one of the judges on Last Comic Standing, and she said to Josh Blue, "Why do you want to be a comedian?" And he says, "Well, I can't be a crossing guard, you know." And if you hear his humor, I mean, it's hilarious. He makes fun of his handicap and really makes something out of it. I mean, he's really good at making you laugh.
I live with cerebral palsy. I really, really want to move forward. I don't know any other comics with disabilities who have really got on national TV and said what they have to say.
Please welcome Mr. Josh Blue. Let him know, Josh Blue.
Hey! How you guys doing? All right. You know, people ask me if I get nervous before coming up on stage. I said, heck no, I got this many people staring at me all day. I was walking downtown, and the drunk tank stopped and picked me up. I was like, uh-oh. I was like, wait a minute here, fellas, there's a misunderstanding. I'm not drunk, I have cerebral palsy. They were like, that's a pretty big word for a drunk ass. I was in there for 7 days. They're like, damn, buddy, what did you drink?
Ninth one is Bill Maher. Bill Maher, maybe it's his writers too on Real Time. I don't have HBO, but I've seen clips from Real Time, like on Facebook on my phone or on my computer. I used to watch Politically Incorrect when he was on ABC. And I like the fact that he's bold and he has no holds barred and he tells what he thinks. But, you know, he does these monologues. Usually it's towards the end of the show, and he has these pictures on the side that embellish or help enhance what he's saying, and I find it extremely funny. So, I mean, he's saying things that might have some truths to them, depending on where you stand politically in this in America, because you know America's kind of divided between liberals and conservatives, and you know Bill Maher is more of a liberal, you know. So that's Bill Maher.
Rural television networks have to stop making shows that try and put a happy ending on America's enormous wealth disparity and instead make a show called Shine My Shoes, Fuckface. Come on. This is America, where the top 400 people have more money than the bottom 150 million combined. If ABC can make a show where millionaires give their money to poor people, Animal Planet can make a show where pigs grow wings and fly out of Donald Trump's ass.
Number 8 is Stephen Wright. Stephen Wright has this crazy humor. He speaks in like a low voice and like murmurs. I mean, he just speaks. He has these like little quick lines, and then he goes to another subject. You know, a lot of comedians, most of them, they'll bring up a topic. They'll bring up a topic about food, then they'll talk about dinner, then they'll talk about breakfast, and then they'll segue from breakfast into watching TV because they took their breakfast plate and they went into the living room and they turned the TV on, and then the comedian will segue what the movies they watched on their TV compared to the ones they saw in the theater, and so on and so forth. But with Stephen Wright, he just does these one-liners, and they're really funny. I mean, like, one he had was he had his house. His house is on in the middle of the highway, and I have to exit the driveway at 65 miles per hour every day. Just funny stuff like that.
It's my birthday recently. For my birthday, I got a humidifier and a dehumidifier. Put them in the same room, let them fight it out. Then I filled my humidifier with wax. Now my room's all shiny.
Number 7 is Geechee Guy. I don't know if Geechee Guy has sort of become obscure by now, because he was a big contender like in the late 80s, early 90s, or maybe even mid-90s. I think he had an HBO comedy special. I used to watch those all the time, the HBO comedy specials. But anyways, yeah, he was... he has this way out humor, like he says, like 40 miles ahead, you know, like talking about a speed limit sign. How does it go? I don't know. It's just this abstract humor, like, well, you probably don't get that. Just look him up on YouTube. You'll understand what I mean. But his humor is like way out. I'm sorry. He says at the stand-up stage, he says, "Sorry, I was late getting here. I was stopped at a blinking red light, and I had to time. I had to time myself to get through the light without it coming on again." Just look up. I'm gonna try and put clips of each of these comedians on here on this video, so you can see what I mean by their humor. So, okay, so that's Geechee Guy.
Keep it going for Brian. Hey, how are you? I was at a family reunion. I have some weird relatives. I have this one cousin that you know what he did? He killed himself for the insurance money. And he got away with it. My mom's great. She started a new support group called DAM. D-A-M. Mothers Against Dyslexia. Okay, you'll get these in a second if you didn't get it. Some of these are like joke grenades you have to tell them.
Now, I guess we're getting into the heavy hitters here now. 6 would be George Carlin. He's a liberal. He's an atheist. He's a very anti-authoritarian authoritarian person. I don't know if I laugh all the time with his humor, but I find it really dead on, like he knows what he's talking about. There's a bit of humor I'd love to, well, because I want to share one of the clips with you about George Carlin, and I think I'll just include one. That's about inner city housing. I'll put that one on. I'll show you that one. But he's got a lot of great routines. But like one of them is, he talks about language, soft language, disguising things, and he says, he's at the airport and they're going to pre-board the plane. What the hell does that mean? To get on before you get on? And then they say, we first would like to bring people onto the plane who are in need of special assistance. And he was a big criticizer of fake words, and he was saying cripples, simple, honest, direct language. There's nothing wrong with that word. In Bible translations, you'll hear Jesus healed the cripple. So that's like one of the things. During my life, toilet paper became bathroom tissue. I wasn't informed about this. Nobody asked me if it was okay. Or he says, instead of worshiping God, I worship the sun because I can see it during the day. Or like I worship Joe Pesci because sometimes when I pray to Joe Pesci, some of what I say comes true and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. He just has this really funny humor. And he's a good critiquer of, is that a word? He has done a good critique of our society. Like another thing, World War I, you having a nervous breakdown in World War I is called shell shock. Almost sounds like the guns themselves. Then World War II comes, and it's called battle fatigue. Not as direct as shell shock. Battle fatigue is more comforting. And then the 50s came. Madison Avenue was riding high, and the same condition was called. Let's see, how does it go? Operational exhaustion, and the humanity of the words has been completely pressed out of it. And then he says, and then we had the war in Vietnam, which is only, he was doing this concert in the 80s, but he said, which has only been over for 15 years, and the same exact term was called post-traumatic stress disorder. And the jargon completely buries the word, but we've added a hyphen, so that humor is, I listened to that over and over again. Like I've listened to that on YouTube before, and that's just hilarious.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse. I'll give you an example of that. There's a condition in combat. Most people know about it. It's when a fighting person's nervous system has been stressed to its absolute peak and maximum, can't take any more input. The nervous system has either snapped or is about to snap. In the First World War, that condition was called shell shock. Simple, honest, direct language. 2 syllables. Shell shock. Almost sounds like the guns themselves. That was 70 years ago. Then a whole generation went by, and the Second World War came along, and the very same combat condition was called battle fatigue. 4 syllables now. Takes a little longer to say. Doesn't seem to hurt as much. Fatigue is a nicer word than shock. Shell shock. Battle fatigue. Then we had the war in Korea, 1950. Madison Avenue was riding high by that time, and the very same combat condition was called operational exhaustion. Hey, we're up to 8 syllables now. And the humanity has been squeezed completely out of the phrase. It's totally sterile now. Operational exhaustion. Sounds like something that might happen to your car. Then, of course, came the war in Vietnam, which has only been over for about 16 or 17 years. And thanks to the lies and deceit surrounding that war, I guess it's no surprise that the very same condition was called post-traumatic stress disorder. Still 8 syllables, but we've added a hyphen. And the pain is completely buried under jargon. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I'll bet you if we'd have still been calling it shell shock, some of those Vietnam veterans might have gotten the attention they needed at the time. I'll bet you that. I'll bet you that. But it didn't happen. And one of the reasons is because we were using that soft language, that language that takes the life out of life. And it is a function of time. It does keep getting worse. Give you another example. Sometime during my life, toilet paper became bathroom tissue. I wasn't notified of this. No one asked me if I agreed with it. It just happened. Toilet paper became bathroom tissue. Sneakers became running shoes. False teeth became dental appliances. Medicine became medication. Information became directory assistance. The dump became the landfill. Car crashes became automobile accidents. Partly cloudy became partly sunny. Motels became motor lodges. House trailers became mobile homes. Used cars became previously owned transportation. Room service became guest room dining. And constipation became occasional irregularity. When I was a little kid, if I got sick, they wanted me to go to the hospital and see the doctor. Now they want me to go to a health maintenance organization or a wellness center to consult a healthcare delivery professional. Poor people used to live in slums. Now the economically disadvantaged occupy substandard housing in the inner cities. And they're broke. They're broke. They don't have a negative cash flow position. They're fucking broke.
Let me get to Rodney Dangerfield. He's number 5. He's hilarious. He was a killer every time he came on the Tonight Show. I mean, he would strike. He would hit the ball out of the park. I mean, every single time he did the stand-up, he'd walk over to Johnny Carson's desk. I mean, his main shtick was the I get no respect. Like, my mother found me so ugly, she breastfed me through a straw. Or my wife says, take me to a place I have never been to before. And he says, how about the kitchen? You know, so that's pretty funny.
My old wife, she don't go for me either. I'm not a good-looking guy. Well, Halloween, I open the front door, kids give me candy. Are you kidding? I know I'm ugly. My dog found out we look alike. He killed himself. I was an ugly kid, too. My old man took me to the zoo. The guy at the gate thanked him for returning me. And I was a very ugly kid. Every time my old man wanted sex, my mother showed him my picture. I was a very ugly kid. In my sandbox, the cat kept covering me up all the time, you know? Well, when I was a kid, nobody was nice. I was 6 years old. I found out there's no such thing as Alpo baby food. I mean, and nobody was nice. My mother never breastfed me. She told me she liked me as a friend. I mean, I had it rough. Well, I told my old man I'm sick and tired of running around in circles. He got mad. He nailed down my other foot. I mean, that's the story of my life. No respect. I don't get no respect at all. Are you kidding? No respect at all. Well, when I was born, the doctor told my mother I did all I could, but he pulled through anyway, you know? I mean, I don't get no respect from anyone. Well, last week my house was on fire. My wife told the kids, be quiet, you wake up Daddy.
4 is Dennis Miller. That's sort of the opposite end of Bill Maher. You know, Bill Maher's liberal. Dennis Miller is more conservative. Of course, he wasn't always conservative. He started off fairly liberal, I believe, like in the Saturday Night Live days. But then when he got his radio show, well, he briefly had a late night talk show. But then he had a radio show. I don't know if he's still on the radio, but and then he sort of, I don't know if he still does, pals around with Bill O'Reilly, and he sort of went south with adopting a more conservative view of things. But you know, people age and people change, I guess. I don't know, but like he says in one of his specials, he has a picture of Abraham Lincoln behind him. I think he's filming, the special was in Washington, D.C., and it's a picture of the the Lincoln Memorial with the statue of Lincoln on the stage behind him. Not the statue, a painting of the statue. And he says, set your phasers on emancipate, you know, talking about Star Trek and history, you know, so that's pretty funny.
New book out this week called How to Massage Your Dog. Now you tell me exactly how much massage does an animal who can lick its own balls need? I think you know, when you're munging on your own sack, you are so far beyond shiatsu. You realize they have psychiatrists for dogs now? You know, that in and of itself can screw up a dog. Hey, pal, am I allowed on the couch or am I not allowed up on the couch? Now, I don't want to get off on a rant here, and I wouldn't, but I can't help myself because, you see, I'm addicted to ranting, and I'm not responsible for my actions right now because I have what they call PCRS, pay cable rant syndrome. Somebody call Leslie Abramson and find me somebody to sue. Let's face it, folks, as far as therapeutic introspection goes, we've become a nation of such insufferably unbridled me-monkeys. Every hiccup of our psyche, every aberrant twinge of our consciousness, no matter how insignificant, has become a springboard for the kind of fervent discussion and speculation that used to be reserved for the Zapruder footage and the Sgt. Pepper album cover.
Now, number 3, she's hilarious. I get belly laughs listening to her. I don't know if I'm familiar with a lot of her stuff. HBO did a special a few decades ago called, I think it's called Woman of the Night, and she was one of the comedians, Judy Tenuta, and she did just hilarious bit. She says, so this sperm whale, the sperm whale chomping on his big cigar blows his smoke in my petite flower face. All because, how's it go? I know I'm maybe I don't sound very articulate with this video. He gave me a plane ride with a Visa card. How does it go? I don't know. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to look briefly at the Judy Tenuta video on YouTube, and I'll be right back. But I'll be, you won't see it. Yeah, I'll be right back in just a sec. Oh, so what this? I just looked at the clip. So what she says, I'm not going to remember exactly right. So this guy who likes me, he wants to take me to Japan and make me his geisha girl. He takes, yeah, right, because the sperm whale has a Visa card. I'll put the clip in there. I'm terrible at articulating. Maybe I'm terrible at articulating humor. All right. So, anyways, that's Judy Tenuta.
Hi, pigs. My name is Judy, and I have my own religion, Judaism. Yes, soon you will all be my personal love slaves. But first, let's go back in time. Oh, cute. I'm trying to lead a normal life, so just now, I was on this airplane to Europe. It could happen. And there's this guy sitting next to me. Looks like a squid in stretch pants. So, I'm ready to spawn. So this squid in stretch pants is trying to make me talk to him. Yeah, just because he paid for my trip. How much can I give? I ask you, stud puppets. So then, he starts puffing on a cigar the size of God's ego. And he's blowing this cigar smoke in my petite flower face. And I said, excuse me, but if I wanted to shorten my life, I'd date ya. Okay, Sasquatch? So, of course, he takes this as a come on. Oh, and he says to me, Judy, he had an accordion too. Yes, it could happen. It could happen. And he said, oh, Judy. Yes, he wanted to possess me. He said, oh, Judy, come with me to Japan. You can be my little geisha girl. I said, all right. Like I have time to get my feet bound for some sperm whale with a Visa card. Come closer to the goddess. Come closer. Now I want to ask you a question. How many of you ever started dating someone because you were too lazy to commit suicide? Yeah, come on.
Now, here are the heavyweights. I mean, the big guns. I mean, the ones I love to death. And I gotta have a clip of these two guys. Number 2 is Don Rickles. He is effing hilarious. I like the fact in his humor, he's got a very unique style of humor, which is he doesn't have like a subject he talks about or talks about himself. he goes into the audience and he looks out in the audience, or he's dead now, but he's, like he was on, is it Late Show with Craig Kilborn on the Late Late Show? But no, it wasn't Craig Kilborn, was it? It was the guy who came after Craig Kilborn. I can't remember his name. But you know how Don Rickles, he talks to somebody in the audience, and he sees this guy who's Asian, and he says, "What are you, Japanese?" And the guy says, I think he says something like, "I'm from the Philippines." And he says, "My ass, you are. I was searching for your father in World War II." So that's the kind of humor he has. I'm trying to think of some other things he's. The thing about Don Rickles' humor is, I like George Carlin too. I would say is that it might not be acceptable in today's political climate. But like he does. If you want to see a lot of great Don Rickles clips, just look up the roasts. The roasts are loaded with this great stuff he's done. I think to some degree the humor somewhat falls flat in this day and age, but some of it doesn't. Like when they honor Sammy Davis Jr., Don Rickles says, Dean Martin's standing to the right of him, and Sammy Davis is to the left. So he says, "Dean, you're Italian. I'm Jewish, and Sammy, you're black, and I'm sorry." And then he says to Wilt Chamberlain, he says, "I don't want to say anything bad about you, because if I did, you'd hurt me." So just things like that, or what's his name, Milton Berle. He says, "Milton, you're expected back in the nursing home now." So he always had that silly comedy to his move. I always had those barbs that he would bring about. Just the way he insulted people was great, and he always did it in good taste.
From Casino, the pit boss of warmth, Don Rickles.
It is now 11 o'clock, and I'm fed up and tired. Marty, I would address... Somebody get a phone book so you can see me. $40 million jobs in show business. I got a midget to direct me. I have regards for you, Marty, from Tony Bonini and Frankie Gazzano. And they told me to tell you you'll be dead in the morning. Marty, you are the most annoying director I ever had in my entire career. Little guy, he's the kind of guy in prison, was the squealer all the time. Pulling on your pants leg going, "Let's do it again." I said, "Marty, it's 85 times. De Niro don't have it anymore." He's busy mumbling. Marty, when we see all the films you did, none of them were great. None of them. I look around the room and I realize now, aside from Clint Eastwood, I'm the biggest name here. Clint Eastwood is now thrilled. His name was mentioned. But Marty, you'll have a great future ahead of you. Maybe instead of Jesus Christ, you'll do a story about a rabbi. A rabbi schlepping a piece of wood someplace. Be a great story. Anyway, De Niro is sitting there. God bless you, Bob. He's got the beard on. To know him is a treat. He's one of the great actors of our time. You ask him. You ask him. He'll tell you.
And here's the number one. I think you can say it's the number one. It's the guy I've been watching the most recently. And I can watch clips of his stuff over again, and it still makes me laugh. And that's Jim Gaffigan. He is effing hilarious. And speaking about effing, he doesn't really use swearing. I don't think it is in his comedy. He incorporates the subjects of religion. I'm not religious. I'm an atheist, but it doesn't matter. You know, I mean, like he says, do you ever get uncomfortable when somebody walks up to you and says, I want to talk to you about Jesus? And then he says, after that, he says, it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. You'd feel uncomfortable, and then the person says, I'd like to talk to you about Jesus, and he says, I'd rather you not. And then somebody asked Pope a question about God, and Pope says, easy freak, I keep work at work, you know. So I'll put in a clip. He's got a lot. I highly recommend Jim Gaffigan. He's got some specials on Netflix. What really angered me about his next stand-up special is it's on Amazon. So maybe they gave him a better contract or something. I'm not quite sure on that. But I think he has about 5 specials on Netflix, and they're all hilarious. And I'll include a clip.
I married a woman who loves to camp, and I am what you would call indoorsy. I'm surprised we can still get people to camp. Hey, want to burn a couple of vacation days sleeping on the ground outside? No. What if I told you get to crap standing up in the woods? I still wouldn't want to go. You'll wake up freezing, covered in a rash. All right, I'll go. My wife always brings up, camping's a tradition in my family. Hey, it was a tradition in everyone's family till we came up with a house. My parents never took me camping. You know why? Because they loved me. If it's so great outside, why are all the bugs trying to get in my house? Some places you have to pay to camp. You have to pay to sleep outside. That's gotta be insulting to the homeless people. Happy camper. Has anyone ever really been a happy camper? Because whenever we use that term, we're being sarcastic. He is not a happy camper. Oh, why don't we just call him a camper? He's miserable. You know who's a happy camper? The guy leaving the campsite. He's the happiest camper. He gets to take a shower. I probably wouldn't be so scared if I wasn't sleeping in a bag. Hey, let's pre-package ourselves for the serial killer, huh? I can't get away, can you? I could hop for a little, but I'm dead meat. You ever have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night? You always look at your friends, nice knowing you. And want to come and get killed with me, or you want to get killed looking for me? We're all dead. And it's not just serial killers, there's bears out there. Last time I went, we got this pamphlet that said if a bear approaches, you're supposed to play dead. Really? We're going to rely on my acting skills? Play dead? Who came up with that? Maybe the bears? Play dead, cover yourself in honey, climb on a large white plate. Don't try to run away from us. I mean the bears. As if bears have some ethical code. Hey, I don't mess with dead bodies. I'm a bear, not an animal. That was the worst impression of a bear ever. I don't even know why we're camping where there's wild animals. That wouldn't be a selling point for anything else. Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful golf course. Plus, around the 9th hole, there's a pack of wolves. If they start charging at you, just play through. I'm indoorsy. The only thing I like to do outside is lie in a hammock. You know, it's hard to do anything once you get in a hammock because you can't get out. It's like a giant net for catching lazy people. Can't even drink in this. All you can do is relax. Yeah? You never see someone crying in a hammock. My life is... Oh, this is delightful. You ever get in a hammock with someone else? You better be dating them. Because it looks like you're trying to start a family. I got in a hammock with my cousin. He still won't talk to me. That's dirty. Of course, the hammock's just the outdoor bed. You know? I find it hard to get out of a regular bed. It's always sad in the morning. You're like, I'm going to miss you. You were wonderful last night. I didn't want it to end. We never want it to end, right? That's why there's the snooze bar. As my first decision of the day, I will go back to bed. How many plans has the snooze bar destroyed? Yeah. You wake up, you know what? I'm not going to the gym this morning. Snooze. 8 minutes later, you hear the alarm. You know what? I took a long shower yesterday. Snooze. 8 minutes later, you hear the alarm. You know what? I always wanted to go on welfare. Snooze. The best is when you wake up, you look at the clock, and you see you still have time to sleep. It's like finding $1,000. This is my lucky day/night/day. Love bed. Breakfast in bed, that's like a fantasy, isn't it? Bacon, my greasy lover. Bacon's the best. Even the frying of bacon sounds like applause. It's like, you want to know how good bacon is? To improve other food, they wrap it in bacon. If it weren't for bacon, we wouldn't even know what a water chestnut is. Thank you, bacon. Sincerely, Water Chestnut III. And those bits of bacon are like the fairy dust of the food community. You don't want this baked potato? Bring! Now it's your favorite part of the meal. Not interested in a salad? Bibbidi-bobbidi bacon! I just turn it into an entree. But once you put bacon in a salad, it's no longer a salad. It just becomes a game of find the bacon in the lettuce. It's like you're panning for gold. Eureka! Bacon. The only bad part about bacon is it makes you thirsty for more bacon. I never feel like I get enough bacon. At breakfast, it's like they're rationing it. Here's your 2 strips of bacon. I want more! More bacon! Whenever you're at a brunch buffet and you see that big metal tray filled with 4,000 pieces of bacon, don't you almost expect a rainbow to be coming out of it? I found it! I found the source of all bacon! That bacon tray is always at the end of the buffet. You regret all the stuff on your plate. What am I doing with all this worthless fruit? I should have waited. Bacon. How many bacon jokes is this guy gonna do? I mean, I like bacon, but come on. I bet if you put bits of bacon on a strip of bacon, you could travel back in time. It's like a tasty vortex. It would be kind of redundant for me because I would just travel back to when I was eating bacon. Be a bacon-to-bacon time-space continuum. Bacon! That's gotta be the end of the bacon jokes. I even like the name Bacon. You can't tell me the success of Kevin Bacon isn't somehow tied to his name. You're not going out to see a Kevin hot dog movie.
So that about does it. So should I do a recap maybe? Yeah, I'll do a quick recap. So, honorable mentions: Joan Rivers, Tina Fey, Norm Macdonald, Kathleen Madigan, and Janine Garofalo. And number 10, Josh Blue. Number 9, Bill Maher. Number 8, Stephen Wright. Number 7, Geechee Guy. Number 6, George Carlin. Number 5, Rodney Dangerfield. Number 4, Dennis Miller. Number 3, Judy Tenuta. Number 2, Don Rickles. And number 1, Jim Gaffigan. And thanks for watching. I guess I could tag a few people. I'll tag Gray 1951, who's a person. Mike. Nobody has to do this. Don't feel obligated to do it. It's just the other few videos I saw that were tagging other people. So, Sasha, I guess you. Sexy Monkey, I know you did like a tag video for Roger's comedy, maybe it was comedy movies, but this is stand-up comedy, so I tag you. Who else do I tag? I'm tagging people that'll put videos on YouTube, that do put videos on YouTube. LJ, I'll tag you. Jace, I don't know if you watch stand-up comedy. But if you do, if you feel like you do, then you don't have to do it. Nobody I'm tagging has to feel obligated, you know. Maybe Aaron Pinn. I'm going to do a shout-outs video, by the way, of the people that I appreciate on YouTube. Daisuke, I don't know if Daisuke watches stand-up comedy. Cinema Dave Media, that's another person I guess I could tag. I don't know. I subscribe to a lot of people on YouTube. There are a few other channels that I interact with, but they're generally on streams and they don't usually do video, so I'm not asking them for a video because they probably I don't think they'll probably do it, so that's why I'm not asking them. So I'm thinking Paul from Australia, and I know there's some guys in America, but I know you guys are more you're more in the streaming side of things. Trying to think. I guess that does it. If I think of more, I guess I'll add it on later to the video. I think this video is going to take a little while to tie together because I got to get the clips off of YouTube, insert it during the movie, and not during the movie, during the video, so I can get all this together. So, all right, thanks a lot for watching, and see you soon. Take care now.